I've been hunting in front of a camera for about 25 years, and I feel real blessed to have had the privilege to do this. And as you learn from myself and my good friend David Blanton, filming hunts for outdoor television can be a roller coaster ride sometimes.
I actually got involved in the hunting industry for the first time in 1980 when I was 19 years old, working as a guide on Burnt Pine Plantation in Madison, Georgia. And I loved it. I knew at that point that working in the outdoor industry was something I would like to do for the rest of my life. Little did I know that it would turn out to be this exciting. In 1987, I opened up an outdoor store, a hunting and fishing pro shop. And this is where I got introduced into the retail side of things. And to help boost business, my partner and I started producing a local hunting and fishing show on the local cable access channel just to let folks know about our store. And about this time, Bill Jordan came out with Realtree. And obviously, I started selling Realtree in my store, and I met Bill, and we started hunting together. And he knew that in time, Realtree needed to have a national TV exposure. And he asked me to come to work for him at Realtree to kind of start selling videos and producing a TV show on the original TNN, the Nashville network. We started on air in 1993, and it's just been incredible ever since.
You know, my life's kind of evolved as far as the hunting and filming aspect of it. Way back, early on, my wife used to film me hunting. And I mean, we shot all sorts of stuff, and hogs, and I mean, just all kinds of critters on film. But it was for my own personal enjoyment. You know, I mean, the film is so much more than pictures. It's so much more than reading. I mean, it's actual. You could hear it, you could see it. I mean, it was really, really neat. And then a few years later, I went to work for a company, Precision Shooting Equipment, and I had opportunities there to film with their video crew and really enjoy it. I love it because, you know, the hunt, it happens, the actual harvesting of an animal happens so fast that sometimes you don't know what happened, you know. I mean, you don't have a clear memory, but then you're able to see it over and over and over and over. But what's really cool about it is that it has given me a chance to teach other people and share my enjoyment of the hunt, you know. So it's been a great ride. I mean, I really enjoy it.
Well, I'm truly blessed by the good Lord above to do what I do for a living, but it's not all play.
At times, it's a little more difficult to hunt with a cameraman.
When you're filming big game hunts, it definitely has its ups and its downs.
You know, you got to make up for 2 scents, trying to hide 2 stands.
And also battling the elements. The weather can be tough at times.
You know, there's a lot of things that you have to allow for that normally you don't have to worry about.
As a matter of fact, the toughest time I say it is for us to get our job done during deer season is when the temperatures are warmer than normal. You get temperatures that are 10 to 15 degrees warmer than normal, the deer just do not cooperate.
But sometimes what's a problem is what you see, the picture that you have when you're shooting is not always what your cameraman sees. I had a situation where there's this really nice 9-pointer that we called him Showbiz, because he was like an actor. Wherever there was a camera, if we had a trail camera out, Showbiz was on it, you know, and he was always providing pretty footage, jumping over fences and feeding out there. The sun hit him. He was a beautiful animal. And I really wanted to kill him. He was a really cool buck. And he was of age. It was time to harvest Showbiz. And I had him. What was so neat, and I was so excited, is we were hunting a Banks blind, and I had the door open and the window open. Everything was just right. And he was out 10 yards away. I had a perfect picture. I drew back, came to full draw, and I says, "Joe, are you on him?" And Joe says, "No way, I don't even see him." And I held and I held and I held, and I says, "Joe, you on him?" And he still wasn't on him, still wasn't on him, still wasn't. There's just no way. We couldn't. So we lost an opportunity to harvest Showbiz that evening at 10 yards.
So it definitely has its ups and downs, but believe me, when you get that solid, incredible killer footage laid down on the camera, it is very, very rewarding.
There's a lot of different ways that the camera can affect your hunch, you know. But I think the most disappointing that I've ever had as far as a camera and a hunt was concerned was, and I'm always conscious of this, and I love it though, because we've got an obligation and a privilege to be able to convey everything that happens during the hunt to you guys, the viewers. But this particular evening, I'm talking to Paul. We're doing an open to the hunt, let our viewers know what's going on. And unbeknownst to me, the buck that I had concentrated all summer on. I mean, I watched him in the fields, and I've known this buck for, believe it or not, 8 years. This was a real old animal. Tried to kill him last year, tried to kill him the year before. I mean, he'd become very nocturnal. But this year, well, I was so excited because he joined the general population. He'd be out feeding with the other deer during daylight. So I was really excited about killing this animal because for once I had a real good chance at doing that. So one of the things that we were actually talking about when we were doing that open was closing the gap on this buck we call X-File. We call him X-File because he's so reclusive. So what is so disappointing, funny now as I look back, is I'm sitting in the blind and I'm talking to Paul, and my leg is literally on a post that comes into the blind, a little corner right there, you know, that's cut out for the post. And the post goes straight down, and about 3 feet, 4 feet off the ground, I've got a camera right there. So literally, just a few feet underneath my leg, as I'm talking to Paul, X-File is looking in the camera. He's just looking into the camera. In fact, I think I saw him smile. I don't know, but it was so, I mean, I didn't even know that any of this had happened till we went back. I think I went back with Joe, and we went back through the card, and it shows exactly what time X-File was looking in the camera right under my leg, and it shows us coming in, shows everything. At first I thought Joe was messing with me when he said, you know, how'd this happen? X-File's right here. You know, I'm like, what? I mean, it just didn't seem possible. But and again, I'm laughing about it now. But I was so upset the rest of that season. As it turned out, he left the property. I never got another opportunity to see or shoot X-File. So that's got to be one of the biggest or the lowest downs that I've ever had when filming hunts.
The most disappointing animal that got away from me, well, there's been several, but one that sticks out in my mind was the very first Arizona archery elk tag that I drew, which is incredibly hard to draw. And I drew a Unit 7 Arizona archery elk tag, and I was so fired up, but I had never elk hunted before. And so sure enough, I get into some bugling bulls, and my inexperience as an elk hunter cost me a chance at a big bull. I didn't know how to properly set up. I didn't realize you could be a little aggressive. I kept setting up behind the cover instead of in front of the cover, and I could never get my bow drawn. So just the inexperience left me knowing that I had a lot to learn when it came to elk hunting with a bow and arrow.
What's got to be one of my most memorable hunts happened a few seasons ago in early October. I mean, it's one of them really nice evenings when you know you're going to see deer. You know, everything is kind of cool for early season, and the wind is just right, not too still. Sometimes if the wind is too still, you know your scent just hangs. And if it's blowing too much, they're going to catch you because it swirls. It was just that kind of evening, just perfect. And the deer started to congregate that evening. We're hunting what we call the Ranger. It's on the north end of the farm. And the deer started to congregate about 4 o'clock, 4:30. So I knew it was going to be a pretty good hunt because they were coming out extra early. Most of the time on the Ranger area there, the food plot, they come in around 5 o'clock and then they start to populate after that. But they came in about 4 o'clock. So it was a good chance that if any bucks that normally come in after dark would come in a little earlier, you know, come in during daylight, it's a good chance that would happen. So I don't know what time it was. Maybe it was about 5 o'clock, 5:30 or so. I'm not sure. But I know thereabouts about 30 minutes or so before dark. really nice buck comes out, and we're really set on that buck. I'm looking at him, I'm looking at him, I'm looking at him. All of a sudden another buck walks out that, and I think the one that I'm concentrating on, I think it was a 10. I don't remember what we called him at that time, but I knew I wanted to kill him. But when that big 8 walks out, a big 8 walks out, and he's got a little hook on his brow, and he's got a big old body on him, and I remember him from some Reconyx photos that I had. He's a really reclusive animal. Never got him on a food plot before, but I had him on the Reconyx camera. He stepped out, and I said, this is the one, and I was hunting with Paul, and I said, Paul, if this buck provides a shot, we're going to kill him. So Paul started thinking about that buck. I started concentrating on that buck, and sure enough, he walks out. I think he turned his nose towards a doe as though he was going to follow her, then turned back, and he came by and he provided about a 22-yard shot. It was perfect. Boom. Saw the arrow go through his ribs, and he ran off. And as I'm talking to Paul I think mentioned, you know, let's do a little recovery interview here, a pre-recovery, then we'll go after him. I says, everything's too good right now. I says, if there's a very good chance, I don't know exactly what I said, but I think what my point was, there's a very good chance we'll kill another buck this evening, you know. So I said, hang tight. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen within the next 30 minutes. And you know, as far-fetched as it seemed to have an opportunity twice in one evening, I'd say probably about 15, maybe 20 minutes later, here comes a big wide 10 that I knew well. We'd seen him several times throughout the last few years. And he came down the field, and again, same thing. I says, really think about this guy, because if he provides a shot, we're going to kill him. And so he comes out, and as big bucks often do, he eyeballs every buck on the field, you know, kind of in an aggressive posture, and then starts eyeballing the does. And a couple does brought him around, and at one point I thought he was going to come around the east side of the blind or the left side to me, but he turned around and he starts walking the other way, and he came right down the grass line, and again provided us a really chip shot. I think he was 20 yards, and the arrow went right through his lungs. What was so cool is we actually saw him, I think we saw him fall. I wasn't sure if he got up and ran again, but what's neat is he went into the tree line and lunged forward into a bunch of vines and actually pulled the top of the tree down and sprung it back up after he came through. So it was exciting. I don't know that I'll ever have an opportunity to kill 2 big old bucks like that again in one evening, but it was exciting, and I'll remember it for the rest of my life.
In my 20+ years of filming hunts for Realtree, the most memorable bow hunt I've ever had in my life happened just this past fall in South Dakota. I was with my good friend and cameraman Stephen McNally. We were on the Belle Fourche River, and we had a 160-inch mainframe 8-pointer come into the timber with us, and for an hour this deer cautiously inched his way closer and closer to our stands. At 45 yards, I go to take a broadside, high percentage shot, and inadvertently hit the release on my trigger, sending the arrow out about 10 yards in front of the animal and about 5 yards short. I knew that the hunt was over. No question, it was over. Miraculously, the deer settled back down and continued making his way towards my blind. I could not believe what was happening. This was the biggest buck that I'd ever taken with a bow, and I was going to get a second shot at this animal. And at 20 yards, he gave me a perfect broadside shot, and I smoked him with the Bear Anarchy, and he ran 30 yards and tipped over. My biggest buck ever, and an incredible hunt to get 2 shots at a 6.5-year-old mature whitetail. That is the most memorable hunt I've ever had while bow hunting. I'm so blessed to do what I do. I've seen it all in the woods. I've seen beautiful sunrises and sunsets, unbelievable scenery. I thank God for the opportunity to bow hunt for a living and to be able to get successful hunts through the lens of the camera for everyone to see. The good, the bad, and sometimes the ugly.